Hey, what's up YouTube, and welcome back to another video. Now today we're going to be going back into the K series, and right in front of me is the JDM K24 that I've been building for the channel. We just wrapped up things with the Type S oil pump installation. We went through all of that in a full guide, and today what I'm going to be talking about now is doing drop-in cams. So behind me I have a set of Drag Cartel Drop-In Cams. So in this video we'll be going over what the benefits are of doing a more traditional cam where you have to do some more valve train adjustments and upgrades versus doing something that's called a drop-in cam, as well as going into what the VTC gear is, which is on the intake camshaft, and why it's also very beneficial to upgrade this. So if you guys have been enjoying the K series content, make sure to comment down below and let me know what else you guys want to see in terms of the long form content with all the engine building stuff. I've been really taking my time and enjoying the journey so far, but I think this is going to be one of the more exciting things that we do. So I wanted to provide more context that I could than in a 60-second video. So let's get right into it. And just to give you a little bit more insight on the K24 versus a K20, actually the K20 head flows a little bit better than the K24. What's good about these is the extra displacement that you get out of them, but one of the bottlenecks that a lot of people find is in the cylinder head. Now, what you can do, and what's a very common thing that people also upgrade, is just putting on a K20 head onto a K24 block. So you get the best of both worlds in terms of the low-end grunt that you're going to get from the 2.4 liter versus the 2 liter, and then you get the high flow action and the higher rev capacity that you could get from a K20 head. But in this case, this is going to be a solution that's going to keep everything with the cylinder head so that you don't have to do a full disassembly, but also get some benefit in terms of performance and horsepower gain by running a slightly more aggressive cam, as well as the VTC cam gear. So before we go into more detail about all the stuff that I have over here, I do want to talk about the functionality of the VTC gear. So what this basically does is this is dependent on the timing. So at lower RPMs for the VTC gear actually retards the timing so that, you know, it's a little bit more efficient. It gets away with emissions, and in its stock form, there's not too much modification that can be done here. So for a tuner, this is kind of a bottleneck when it comes down to this. With this one, this is actually a 45-degree VTC gear that's been modified so that it's much more tunable. So this is going to be something that's going to go on to the Drag Cartel Drop-In Cams that's going to complement this really well so that in the future, you know, per se, if we go supercharged or turbocharged, it will make it much more easier to tune this and to complement the fact that we can get a lot more horsepower gains from the upgraded cam. I mean, the quality on this is top notch. And this was something that I know is not like a must-have for a K-series build, but since I'm already doing all this stuff and going through all the effort, I thought that this would be a good compromise. Granted, yes, I could take apart the cylinder head and do stuff like the SuperTech valve springs, for example, a very common upgrade. You could do the retainers, the rollers, all that stuff, but I will say that these were a pretty penny. So the one thing that people are saying, like, oh, K-series, you know, you could do it on a budget, do it at the junkyard. But a lot of this stuff will add up so quickly, you won't even realize it. So, I mean, for something like this, you definitely want to consider how much you want to spend. And this is just kind of the slippery slope with working on cars. You'll be like, oh, well, I'm here, so I might as well replace the timing cover. And oh, if I'm taking off the timing cover, I might as well do the timing chain. And then I'll do the timing chain tensioner. And then I'll do the cams. And before you know it, you've built an engine that's capable of making 500 plus horsepower and you're in financial turmoil. I think this will be a good middle ground where it feels good to me to do this. And I think this will be a lot nicer to do in terms of the installation process. So I think one of the biggest things is you need to have this, which is a open-ended 24mm wrench that we can put here on the original cam, and it'll slide on like so that we can hold this in place and make sure that we don't disrupt anything with the valve train itself. So when you look right here, I am top dead center meaning that everything is aligned. You see the 2 teeth right here? This is gonna be your indicator that you are in the right and correct spot when taking off the cams. And it's almost impossible to mess this up, which is the good news when you have something like the cam lock tool. So this is just a cam lock tool that I got online. There's a whole bunch of just random brands that you can get this from. Or you could even take like a small drill bit and just stuff it in between this hole to make sure that this won't move. But I think I'm gonna have a little bit of assistance here when making sure to hold this steady to blast off not just these, which I believe are called the pulse plates. I could be wrong there. You guys will let me know in the comments. And then also for blasting off the cam gear, in particular, I believe this is at like 80 foot-pounds. So I'm probably just gonna use the air gun with this one and have somebody hold this steady, and then we could take all this stuff off. And of course, we'll take off the cam caps as well. Usually when you're doing stuff like this, anything cylinder head related, these are torqued in a certain sequence. And typically for Hondas, at least from what I remember, just like on the B series stuff, is you wanna start middle out. And it's like you're almost like drawing a circle. So we'll start from the middle and we'll make our way out, slowly just going like this. And for me, what I do is I typically use a breaker bar and I really take my time. I do not use the impact gun, so I won't be taking the 3/8 impact and just zipping all these off unless they're very, very loose. And then we can remove the cam, use some engine assembly lube, take our time, and then make this look really nice. So I'm very excited for this one. I think it will, of course, it will look amazing when it's installed. In terms of the performance gains, I think down the road, especially when we go and get this tuned, I'm very curious what the benefit will be. But typically cams are like one of the biggest things that you can do besides all the little things that we've done with like the fuel and air that will really spruce up the K24. And we'll see if it's better than doing a K20 head conversion, because honestly, to find a clean pressure tested K20 A2 head that's in good shape, it's kind of a roll of the dice. But also something you could do too, if you got the coin for it, is that Drag Cartel usually has a lot of stuff in stock that you could, with like a full milled CNC head that has everything good to go. That's if you got the unlimited money glitch. But I think for this one, like I said, this is gonna be a good middle ground for us to play around with. I think I'm gonna put the camera down, get ready to work on this thing, and yeah, man, let's get all this installed. I don't know, you have to give me your username so I can tag you.
I don't have it.
Oh, well, that makes it easy.
Where do you go first?
Let's do this one first. Zip this guy off. So I have the cam lock there, which is good. Go in reverse. Okay.
Finger on that.
Yeah, live and you learn. You okay? Oh shoot. Did it like pinch your finger?
No, it hammered it because I just had my finger up holding it in.
There we go. This one's torqued down a lot more than this one. You could tell almost immediately. And then I think too, the 8 mils on the back, maybe knock those loose. Also a nice to do. Let me rotate this guy over here.
So one first?
Yeah, so let's do this one first. Man, okay, there's that. Let's do the other one. There we go. Beautiful. Thank you, bro.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you.
Hey, figured might as well put me in the video since I've been all the ones already. Just continue with the same person.
I know,
throughout the whole time.
You gotta make a channel for yourself now. I mean. Okay, so I got everything zipped off and loose on this. So now the cam gear as well as the pulse plates will come off, and then I'm gonna get started here on the cam caps. But you do wanna make sure that you put on the correct cam on the right side. So this is going to be your exhaust. This is going to be your intake. And it's almost impossible to get these mixed up because obviously of the VTC gear, but also you don't have anything to worry about here when you take off this bolt, for example, because there's like almost a keyway, and which is going to be actually this this little dot right here that's going to ride on that cam gear, so it's impossible for you to mix it up. And it's also going to be the same thing on the backside too with the pulse plate, and there's going to be like a little wedge for you so that when you go back here, you won't have anything to worry about in terms of this not being put in correctly. And you can always reference this, and luckily this video will be a good reference point for me to make sure that I do everything correctly. When you do the cam lock tool, it helps a lot to just have a buddy around to help you out. So luckily Josh was here to help me blast these off, but I'll keep continuing with this. Easy peasy. Don't forget about that washer though, very important. Coming off a lot easier than I thought. Very good. That's a satisfying sound though, I will say. Just Double checking all these are loose, which I think they are. Very good. Awesome. And once you break them loose, I usually just go a little bit at a time. There's no need to rush. Even though it's just the cam caps, usually you can get away with it just doing a little bit like so. I'll get the ratchet out. So for organization's sake and my own sanity, what I got here is just a random piece of cardboard because I don't want to mix up a lot of these cam cap bolts because you can see that some of them have these protruding parts that hold down the valve cover. So you want to make sure that they're in the right spot. I don't think it's the end of the world if you mix these up, but it's better to be organized and then not hate yourself later. So we have right here on the cam caps themselves, it says the number and the direction. So there's no way to mix this up. So as long as you have this arrow going this way, that means that you're going in the right direction. So we have our intake, and we have our exhaust, and then I'm just gonna number these off real quick. So this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, this is not rocket science, but this is something that could really just help you out when you have to go through this so that you're not just sifting through a bunch of random bolts. So these are pretty loose now, and then I'll have to knock these loose. And I've seen a couple tricks online on how to do this, but I'll have to experiment a little bit, but it's always better to be organized. So unfortunately with these ones, these actually got very stuck. I took off the middle cam cap and I just wanted to show you a little trick that's been helping me just get through these. And it's just taking a lot of wiggling. Of course, you do not want to pry on the surfaces, or at least try as much not to do that. If you really need to, I mean, I have this very, very, very skinny flathead screwdriver, and I wrapped it with a shop towel if I needed to go under there, but I didn't nick the surface or anything like that. But when you're dealing with stuff like this, you definitely want to stay away from this. But what I actually did is you loosen all of these. You take these two on both of the ends here, and you use them to kind of wiggle it back and forth. And of course, I can't do it since I need my other hand. A little bit at a time, they'll start to slowly back off, and the more that you take off, the easier these will free. So I'm just trying to be as cautious as I can, but this is gonna be much more of the time-consuming aspect of this. Finally got them all loose. So the cam caps are officially off. I'll take the cam lock tool off, and then I'm just gonna very carefully make sure I put this in the right spot, like so. Is the intake side? Yes, this is the intake side. I'm gonna put it like this. We'll give it this last one right here, and we're home free. Now I'll just carefully take this off. There's nothing else holding it. Beautiful, look at that. I'm actually gonna zip these off real quick on the back side, the little pulse plate. Where is this thing? Oh, you stupid thing, I just had it. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Beautiful, beautiful. Scary, but it really wasn't bad. So I'm just gonna start with these one at a time. Just to confirm, this is intake. I just wanted to show you currently what the workstation is looking like. It's a little tastefully clapped, but we'll make it work for now. So I have everything laid out to make sure that we put everything back together. I am going to, I don't know what I'm gonna do with these cams. Maybe I'll hang on to them for something else, but I'm gonna transfer everything over to the Drag Cartel cams. We'll get the VTC gear set up, and I'll probably start on the intake side because that's the one that needs the bolt torqued down a little bit more. But I think I'm gonna hold off on actually putting on the timing chain. And once you put on the timing chain, that'll be a good instance to actually start torquing these all down to spec. Because you kind of run the risk now if you do it by just holding it with the open-ended wrench that maybe you put some pressure on the valve train when you're not supposed to. So I think just to alleviate that, I am going to not mess with it. As you can see, once we take the cams off, the rest of the engine looks pretty good. I'm gonna clean off these surfaces, and I'm gonna use some engine assembly lube to make sure when we lay this down that we get a nice bead of just some lubricant so that the cams aren't going on here dry. That's a really bad thing to do, especially when you're gonna be doing something like this. So it's a little bit of a messier job, but the one thing is that I'm really glad I didn't have to pry anywhere on the cam caps. It was very enticing to do so, but it just takes a lot of wiggling and a lot of patience, and this all comes apart. So it's pretty cool to see what it looks like right now, but I still got a little bit of a road ahead of me, so I'm gonna lock in and get this done. gonna start laying down some engine assembly lube. Make sure this is all lubricated. I'm gonna go with my fingers here, make sure this is all nice and good. And I'll also go on the cam itself and do that a little bit as well. Gonna get on the rollers and we'll be in business. Doesn't have to be overkill, but you definitely wanna make sure at least everything is nice and not dry. And when you do something like this too, I think it would be good to crank the engine over by hand. We still got a long ways to go, but if somebody was just gonna be doing a typical cam swap over, it'd be good to at least rotate the engine by hand. I'll even get the top of the cam caps too. Nice and steady. So beautiful. All right guys, here's a little update. I got the cam gears on. I haven't torqued anything down. I got the pulse plates in the back and I'm gonna slowly start adding on the cam caps and then I'll finish it off by doing the torque specs. I looked it up online for the cam caps. It's 16 foot-pounds. And then there's this 10 millimeter bolt in the middle, which I believe is just 8 foot-pounds, which honestly is not a lot. I was kind of surprised by that, but these ones, I think we're gonna have to crank them down once we do the timing chain. But the thing is, I'm actually waiting on the OEM timing chain and guides to come in. So I'm gonna hold off on that and I'll actually be doing the hybrid racing timing chain tensioner as the next step. Really good progress so far. It hasn't given me too much trouble. I think I'll have to battle getting these top dead center once we put the cam caps back on. It's a little difficult to line them up right now, but at least we can see the notches here. And I just love the way this Drag Cartel cam gear just looks. The VTC is just 10 out of 10. It looks fantastic. And the cams themselves look also very nice. So I'm very grateful for that. But now it's just a matter of getting stuff done. So let's get it done, baby. Finally, after all of that just tedious work and effort, I finally have the camshafts installed. I took the cam caps through the parts cleaner. I used a generous amount of engine assembly lube on a lot of this, and in my opinion, it looks really fantastic so far. I think I'm gonna hold out for today on torquing these down. I still need to go through the torque sequence. So I'm just gonna keep these pretty loose. And then once I come back tomorrow, I'll continue to work on this and get it to top dead center and do all that fun stuff. I feel like I've been locked in just like doing all this stuff, so we can transition to the next part and talk about it.